Thanks very much, Irene, and thanks to the EPA for inviting myself and Clara here today. Just to give you a brief outline of what Cork City Council has been doing in the past number of years in relation to air quality. Just apologies in the first instance, Dave Joyce, our director, should have been here. He was called away. And also Kevin Ryan, our executive scientist, and it's a pity Kevin isn't here because everybody, I think a lot of people here knows Kevin, and he's an integral part of this unit, but unfortunately he couldn't be with us here today either. So I'm going to look firstly at the air quality strategy document that we developed and published in July of 21. And then I'm going to pass over to Clara, who's going to look at the more exciting outreach projects and schemes that we've been involved with EPA, with the department, with UCC, and a lot of other stakeholders. So, air quality strategy. I suppose maybe if there's members of the local authority, people here, different environmental groups, why bother with a strategy? You know, there's plenty of strategies, should we just get on with it? So we thought there was 3 good reasons to do the strategy, and one was we needed an overarching plan to develop our air quality unit from the limited resources that we have, and I know that will ring familiar with many local authorities, people here today. And then we needed to focus our attention on what objectives we could actually do. The second reason was what flows out of this air quality strategy, the teams, is 27 objectives, and a lot of those objectives sit in other directorates. So whether it be infrastructure, whether it be planning, whether it be traffic, whether it be parks, and it was very important for us to get that into operational plans and development plans. And finally, and maybe more importantly than anything else, once you're armed with a document that's been approved by the members and approved by senior management, you can go to finance and look for some staff. And that can be difficult, but it actually worked in this case. So if any local authority people are out there and saying, is it worth doing a strategy? I think it is. In hindsight, I think it's been very helpful and very beneficial to us. Okay, so the strategy itself is split up into 7 themes with 27 objectives. The first of those is the health and well-being. And this really, I'm just going to draw out a few of the objectives for each theme as we go through, not too many. And the overall aim of this one is to inform the public of the dangers associated with air pollution. I think everybody who's spoken here this morning is well aware, and this room is all well aware of that, but it's trying to socialize that message and get that message out to the general public, and that was the first theme. Second theme is the air quality monitoring, and you know, I suppose the adage, if we don't know what the problem is, how are we going to solve it? So we needed to develop an air quality monitoring strategy and monitor network within the city that we could afford to do as well. So they were the objectives that we looked to do that, and I think that's one of our success stories. And I know I spoke to Professor John Wenger earlier there, and it's thanks to John Wenger and his unit helping us to develop these low-cost monitors that allowed us to develop this network, that we have a dashboard which has, I think, Clara, about 17 monitors at the moment that we can access, any member of the public can access through that website and see instantaneous PM 2.5. That's all they measure, but it's a very good and useful tool. And I was saying to Irene there, you're never going to solve air quality problems nationwide or even citywide, but you know, we can see clearly from monitoring the dashboard that certain areas are problem areas, whether it be topography, whether it be traffic. And I think the monitoring allows us to focus any of our future potential abatement measures or solutions to that end. Third theme is travel. And of course, as everybody knows, if we get people out of cars and encourage modal shift, there's going to be less NOx and less pollution from the traffic. So the number of objectives, there's quite a few objectives from that, you know, from simple ones like expanding park and ride facilities, which we are doing presently, expanding electric bike charging facilities. But then there's big ones like the Cork Uisce, which sometimes rears its head from time to time, especially when there's 13 billion of Apple money out there. But that would be a transformative project, and it would, obviously it has other advantages for the city in terms of allowing Docklands to develop a 35,000 population potential development. But the knock-on effect is that mass transit takes out a huge amount of mass traffic through the city. So that would have a massive impact on air quality for us. That's a long-term one, obviously, but that's something that we should have as an objective. Okay, fourth theme, EV charging and infrastructure. Obviously, if you can't get people out of the cars, if you can get them into electric cars, again, it helps us in terms of city pollution and traffic pollution. And I think we've been fortunate that one of the problems with trying to get people into EVs is where's the EV charging infrastructure. And we've been successful in just this last year, outlining the infrastructure strategy, our EV infrastructure strategy, which gives us a clear line as Cork City Council, where do we want to go with this? And that's helpful. Again, it all comes back, less traffic, less air quality issues for us. Okay, and the fifth theme, regulation and enforcement. And I think a few speakers mentioned this earlier this morning. There's no point having strategies, or there's no point having regulations if they're not enforced. And we are very strong in this area in terms of the smoky coal ban. We do numerous inspections, and I'm sure many local authority people here do as well, all over the country. Samples taken of sulphur content, random sampling, random inspections, advertising campaigns. We think that's pretty robust at the moment. That's an area that we're quite strong in. Other things, obviously, the NZ buildings or any of our new houses, we're taking out fireplaces essentially. Okay, sixth theme, green infrastructure. Obviously, the promotion of green areas in the city acts as a natural response to air pollution. So we're working, and our park section are working very closely with community groups to expand and increase rewilding areas throughout the city. And again, another tree planting strategy was launched this year in terms of where do we want to promote trees, looking at healthy trees, looking at most of our trees which are in private ownership, and how can we maintain those in conjunction with private individuals. So all that again helps and builds the picture, of what that team can do in terms of objectives and the strategy, but in terms of real deliverables, whether that be the park section or ourselves. Okay, and the seventh theme, and this is research and innovation. As I said, we've developed a whole network of PM2.5 monitors, and I think that's been very successful. Our next step, and Clara will be working on this with Kevin, is the NOx monitors networks. And to say we're doing it on a shoestring is probably too strong a statement. We're using the expertise of John and his team to build in algorithms to correct any of these cheaper units and their accuracy, but we're getting good comparison when we do that against reference stations. So that's something we certainly will be looking to move on. Okay, I think that's it, Clara. I didn't want to use too much of your time. I'll hand over to Clara now, who'll go through the more exciting outreach programs that we were involved in. Thank you.
Thanks. I hope you're all at the edge of your seat now after this. So I'm just going to walk you through a bit of the outreach and public engagement things that we did over the past 2 or 3 years. I suppose, as Noel mentioned there, the first thing we really had up was the air quality dashboard in conjunction with DCC and the Centre for Research into Atmospheric Chemistry there. So thanks again. It's 17 low-cost sensors, purple air, small units measuring PM 2.5 and PM 10. And I suppose, as Noel mentioned before, there's always the issue of they're not as accurate, they're not as good as the reference. But the real advantage that we have here, and you can see it on the map, is that it's a hyper-local network. So if you live down in Ballyfihan, I can check the air quality in Ballyfihan at the moment, and historic as well. So that's a really nice touch, and we're currently revamping the dashboard as well to make it more user-friendly on that. So that's coming. The next kind of step in the clean air journey in Cork was the designation of Ireland's first clean air zone. So if you're familiar with the city centre in Cork, there's the pedestrianised area around Oliver Plunkett Street and all that. And after COVID, there was more little streets pedestrianised, and then it was designated as a clean air zone, which is a bit of a PR piece, but also we had the NOx sensors there, so we're measuring traffic emissions, and it's a nice little thing. And if you're there on a nice day and you're sat out there breathing fresh air and hopefully enjoying some nice food, it's really lovely. Another great project we had going on in terms of public engagement was the citizen science project Clean Air Together. Most of you will be familiar with it. So we had that in Cork 2 years ago, and it was lovely. We had over 400 people participating, putting out little NO2 diffusion tubes and measuring the NO2 at their house. And we had the launch there as well, and there was loads of people coming in interested in like, oh, what's the air quality like at home and with me? And that kind of really brings it out to people. So that was a lovely project as well. Then for the past 2 years, we've been celebrating Clean Air Day in Cork. So the 7th of September is the designated UN Day for Clean Air and Blue Sky. Is that it? Something, a very long name, Clean Air Day. So we started off doing a little bit of an information hub in the Cork City Library on Grand Parade. And this year it was kind of bigger and better everything. We got a few community groups involved. We had a lovely little bike repair workshop so people could bring their bikes, get them fixed up. We had a lunchtime cycle. We had UCC there again presenting the Radical project. We got an electric bus down from Limerick, because Limerick have electric buses and Cork don't, which is outrageous in the first place. And there was another event for community groups on a research project with UCC that I'm going to mention in a minute. We also did a campaign for a Clean Air Night that was last January, and that was modelled on a UK campaign. That was aimed at raising awareness around solid fuel burning, and as Mark mentioned earlier, there's always a balance to strike between being sensitive about energy poverty, obviously, and also raising the awareness on the health impacts. So the way we did it was we had a website up, and it was more inviting people of like celebrate Clean Air Night with us and take a pledge for clean air. So it was like giving people the option of, if you have a chance, don't burn solid fuels or don't put the fire on, or also just like learn more about what air pollution does to your health and things like that. So it was kind of trying to keep that very lighthearted in a sense. And we got a local artist involved, Robin DC. The lovely illustrations that you can see here, that's hers. So yeah, that looked quite nice. And I suppose we can still work more on like disseminating it on social media. We did a little bit, and we had posters on bus stops as well with QR codes that will bring people to the website. So we had good engagement there, really. There was Carefree Day, that was September last year. It's going to be done again, and I think it's going to be retitled as Open Streets Day. Not so people wouldn't be quite as angry about it, but it was a lovely day. So the city centre was blocked up for a Saturday afternoon, and there was cycle events again. There was play streets, so kids would have space to play and everything. The weather wasn't that great this year, but we'll try again. And the really cool thing that we did see on that day, and that's from our NO2 low-cost sensors, was that real drop in NO2 in the city centre. So you can see the spike there in the morning, which is your traffic, and then usually it goes up in the afternoon as well towards the evening, but 12 o'clock here is a 50% reduction of NO2, and yeah, that's really the message that we want to get across as well. Like, it does work. Obviously, if you get the cars out, you get the air pollution out as well. A project we're working on with UCC at the moment is called Behaviour, and this is where we involve the social scientists. It's led by Dr. Marika Casarino and Dr. Dean Venables. And the question Marika was asking is, how can we develop messaging that will actually achieve behaviour change? And her work has been amazing. She's been engaged with over 100 stakeholders, from schools to community groups, all age groups, on the topic of air quality. And I think this is one of the big things that we learned here, is like we need to go out to the people and engage with them there. The one more quick mention, we're working on a website for Eireann there at the moment. This is also going to be soft launch today, I think. And it's meant to be a very general clean air information up. So if you have time and if you want to check on cleanair.ie, we'd love your feedback as well on that. We try to, again, for the communications part, we try to keep it as simple as possible. We try to keep it very visual. Thomas, our graphic designer, has done a great job at making that, I think. And yeah, the feedback that we got for the website, I suppose, was that people are interested, first of all, is what we learned. The other thing is that people wanted concrete and actionable steps of what can they do, how can they choose better fuels, retrofit their house, what grants are there, all that. So that's the one. And what was also pointed out, that a positive story is always nice. It's not always doom and gloom. We want to see where things work, and I think that gives a bit of hope. So for the next steps, I suppose we're just gonna try and improve what we have there, do more outreach, expand our monitoring work, and yeah, keep doing what we're doing, but better. Thank you.